How's it going, everyone? Welcome back again to another episode of Momentum Motorsports Meeting. My name is Wyatt Thompson. We are back with another action-jammed-packed episode. We've got the F1 Mexican Grand Prix. We've got the Round of 8 elimination race at Martinsville for the Trucks, Xfinity, and Cup. I will just say that it's all very, very exciting, including the F1 Mexican Grand Prix. So much to get to, so without further ado, let's go ahead and get to it. This is Momentum Motorsports Meeting. All right, before we get into our race reviews, I wanted to talk about some other racing series or some other motorsport series at Martinsville, or that raced at Martinsville. First off, the Mazda MX-5 Cup Series racing at Martinsville, ending in a photo finish. I was only able to watch the photo finish on X, but yeah, holy moly, that was an awesome finish in the final corner, ending in a bump and run, and then one car getting underneath another car, then ending in a fantastic classic photo finish. Wow, just taking a look at the margin of victory, that was so close. Wanted to give the Mazda MX series a shout out. Another shout out that I want to give to is the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour Series. Justin Bonsignor got the win, and Austin Beers finished second, winning the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour Championship. He is the youngest champion in series history, so wow, that's awesome. Huge congratulations to Austin Beers. Just wanted to give some motorsports series that were also racing at Martinsville this past weekend a nice little shout-outs, because I know there was some big storylines for those two series. So now we're going to go ahead and get into our race reviews. We'll go ahead and start with the Truck Series race at Martinsville. There is so much to talk about. Let's just go ahead and just dive into the cut line and just talk about who advanced to the championship for and who didn't advance. Corey Heim won the race. He's already advanced. He advanced like 3-4 weeks ago. But the next driver who advanced behind him is Ty Majeski. Got the second most stage points of all the playoff drivers. Got walled late in the race, and there was at one point he was like the last guy in, finished 7th, 1 point to the good. The next guy that advanced was Tyler Ankrum, was around 4th to 6th all race long for most of the night, and then had a slow pit stop to start the final stage. The pit gun broke, so he had a lot of work to do, restarting near the back, kind of drove up to 10th with about 38 laps to go, and then just kind of stayed there. Luckily, he had an 8-point gap above the cut line, used pretty much all of those points, and like Ty Majeski, he gets in by 1 point, and the last driver who advances to the championship for is Caden Honeycutt. He tied with Lane Riggs for the last playoff spot, but because Honeycutt finished second and Lane Riggs finished third in the race, Honeycutt got the tiebreaker for the best finish in this round over Lane Riggs. Caden Honeycutt came into this race 5 points above the cut line, and he was below the cut line for pretty much most of this race. Didn't get as many stage points as Lane Riggs did, but Lane Riggs, having a slow restart in about halfway in stage 1, just like missed a shift, kind of stacked up the whole bottom lane. That pretty much changed everything, because then it kind of became a battle for the last spots between Caden Honeycutt and Lane Riggs. And on one of the final restarts of the race, Honeycutt had a fantastic restart, drove up to second. Lane Riggs barely got up to third on the final corner of the final lap, and at that moment, they were tied, and ultimately, Honeycutt got the last spot, but it literally came down to the final lap. I was in awe. I was absolutely in awe of that. Two drivers, Ankrum, Majeski, both got in by 1 point, and Honeycutt and Lane Riggs tied. It does not get much closer than that. It does not get much closer than that. Congratulations to Ty Majeski, Tyler Ankrum, Caden Honeycutt for advancing to the championship four. That means Lane Riggs, Raja Carruth, Grant Enfinger, and Daniel Hamrick are all eliminated. I'll start with Lane Riggs. Lane Riggs was awesome. Had probably the best truck, and if he didn't miss a shift or like if he didn't cause that stack up, I think he could have dominated the race. He gave it his all. He had a great season. He and Corey Heim were basically the best teams to beat this year. And Lane Riggs just ultimately had some really bad luck in this round of 8. Got taken out at the Roval through no fault of his own on lap 1. Kind of did what he could at Talladega. Kind of got turned by Chandler Smith and then got more damage late in that race. And then at Martinsville, kind of came into this race, I think 6 points below the cut line. Even with that mistake of missing a shift in stage 1, he put everything on his back, and ultimately he was just one spot short of contending for the championship. So a huge disappointment for Lane Riggs. But, I mean, Lane Riggs, considering the year prior he didn't even make the playoffs, that's a lot to feel proud of, and definitely a lot of accomplishment for him. Daniel Hemrick is also eliminated, had mechanical problems, mainly due to Lane Riggs just not getting up to speed on the restart and stacking up the entire bottom lane with a lot of trucks getting a decent amount of damage. Hemrick, who had won this race earlier in the spring, would have loved to do, pretty well and try to sweep it. Seemed to be pretty good at the start of the race, but never really had the race-winning pace, and he ultimately had to retire due to mechanical issues late in the race. Grant Enfinger, he entered this race pretty much in a must-win and ultimately never had the race-winning pace. And then Raja Caruth came into this race 14 points above the cut line, got a good amount of stage points in stage 1, looking to get stage points. Then halfway through stage 2, Caden Honeycutt out of turn 4 cuts Raja Caruth's tire down, and then at that point, Raja Caruth just couldn't hold on any longer, and turn 1 just ultimately crashes out. A huge disappointment for Raja Caruth, who's pretty much kind of made me look like an idiot the past couple of weeks. And I think if he had finished in the top 10 in stage 2 and maybe even the race, I legit think that he might have advanced to the championship 4. But man, that's a huge way. That's a really rough way to get eliminated off of that when it's not even really your fault. Like, kind of what Caden Honeycutt did. I mean, I knew it was on accident, but, I mean, either way, that just sucks. That sucks for Raja Caruth, because I think Raja Caruth has really been making me look like kind of an idiot, making me look bad, because I remember saying it earlier, like a couple months ago, that, hey, Raja Caruth, he's going to get eliminated in the first round, and he somehow almost made it to the championship 4, and in a way, I was kind of rooting for him to kind of prove me wrong, but yeah, that's a tough way for Raja Caruth to go down. Congratulations to Heim, Ankrum, Honeycutt, and Majeski for advancing to the championship 4. We'll talk about them in a moment. Going to go over some notable finishers here, some drivers that aren't in the playoffs. Brent Cruz, great top 5 run for him. Corey LaJoie gets another top 5. Brendan Queen in the 7 truck for Spire Motorsports ran top 10 all race long, finished 10th. Good run for him. Jack Wood, Patrick Staropoli get top 15 runs. Timmy Hill, Spencer Boyd get top 20 finishes. Do want to shout out Frankie Muniz. He genuinely ran like top 20 for most of the race. Finishes 23rd. Still a pretty good run. Those are your notable finishers. This race was awesome. This race was very thrilling to watch. The fact that the points were like so tied. There was at one point where 3 drivers were dead on tied in the points, and the championship 4 literally came down to a tie. The race was great. Lots of cautions, but not many like wreckfest cautions. It wasn't messy. It was just like a classic short track Martinsville race. It was something I really, really enjoyed. Before we go ahead and move on to the Xfinity race, I want to make my championship prediction for the Truck Series. Corey Heim, Ty Majeski, Tyler Ankrum, and Caden Honeycutt are the 4 drivers going to be contending for the championship. Corey Heim has been the best team. He's had the best car. He's been the driver to beat. Ty Majeski, he is the defending series champion. Tyler Ankrum, he's been racing full-time in the trucks for 6+ years now. Caden Honeycutt for Stuart Friesen Racing. After a wild roller coaster that he had with Nice Motorsports a few months back, he is now in contention. I'm just going to go ahead and just give you my pick. My pick isn't too surprising. I'm picking Corey Heim to win the championship. I mean, he's been the best truck to beat. I think his biggest competition is Ty Majeski since he won it last year. whatever it is, I mean, it's just like ThorSport Racing seems to have the speed down at Phoenix and just seems to be there kind of at the end and when it matters the most. I feel like Ty Majeski and ThorSport Racing could definitely do that. Majeski, he's really good here. He was great here last year. I think he could be a decent threat. And I think don't count out Tyler Ankrum because he could be a sleeper pick for this championship 4. 6+ years of Truck Series experience. He could be a dark horse pick. And then Caden Honeycutt, I'm really happy for him. After everything that went down between him and Nice Motorsports, kind of went to Young's Motorsports at Watkins Glen to remain eligible for the playoffs, then went to Toyota and drove the 52 for Stuart Friesen. He could literally pull off a miracle, but I just don't think that happens. I think the glass slipper will not fit for Caden Honeycutt, but Corey Heim, that's my pick for the Truck Series Championship. Can't wait for next week at Phoenix. Moving on to the Xfinity Series playoff race at Martinsville. I'm just going to go ahead and start with the finish. It literally looked like last spring. It was between Taylor Gray and Sammy Smith. And last spring, Sammy Smith just absolutely sent it and wrecked Taylor Gray to try to go for the win. I remember talking about it at that time. And now we fast forward to October. In the fall, I thought this race was going to be an exact copy and paste from the spring. Sammy Smith in the playoffs needed to win. At that point, he had gotten no stage points. He needed to win. He absolutely needed to win to the championship 4. Taylor Gray was not in the playoffs. I was expecting Sammy Smith to kind of pull off the bonsai move that he made in the spring, and it didn't happen. I was like, wow. I was a little bit shocked because Sammy Smith absolutely could have done like a Hail Mary move like he tried to do in the spring, and credit to Sammy Smith for not doing exactly what he did in the spring. I think it shows that he truly learned some lessons back there in the spring race, and that, if he wanted to make it to the championship 4, he would have to, make it by not just cleaning and doing a cheap shot. So congratulations to Taylor Gray. Taylor Gray had one of the best cars on the track. I feel like Taylor Gray kind of deserved this one, considering last spring he was there at the end, and then even in the Truck Series race in the fall, needed a good run. I think he needed a win, and he ultimately got used up by Christian Eckes last year. So Joe Gibbs Racing was fast all around. Congratulations to them and Taylor Gray. Going over these notable finishers, Sammy Smith finishes second. Again, like I mentioned, didn't get any stage points, and then at that point, he needed to win, was one spot short. Going into this weekend, I thought he was going to pull off the comeback compared to what he did in the round of 12. Just wasn't enough. Finishes 5 points behind the cut line. Brandon Jones finishes third. He was a top 5 car all race long, but again, just couldn't muster up enough points in the stages. Fails to advance to the championship 4 points behind the cut line. Sheldon Creed finishes 4th. He was basically in a must-win situation and just ultimately didn't have the race-winning pace to win. Unfortunate for him. Jeb Burton finished 6th. He was not happy with Sam Mayer after the race. Early in the race, kind of got used up a little bit too much by Sam Mayer. He was a little bit hot on the radio, and then eventually kind of got back up to him with about 38 laps to go, something like that. Passed Sam Mayer pretty clean. And then, after the race on the cooldown lap, Sam Mayer just flat out wrecked Jeb Burton and just absolutely cleaned him out. I had noticed that replay like a couple hours after the race had finished, and I was just so shocked. I'm like, did I really see that right? Did Sam Mayer really just intentionally wreck someone after the race? Yeah, that's a really, really bad look for Sam Mayer. Not surprising that Jeb Burton was really, really frustrated with Sam Mayer for that. Sam Mayer is definitely getting a lot of trouble. I mean, I feel like a fine and a points penalty is too soft considering he was eliminated from the playoffs, when he crossed the finish line. And I feel like it deserves a suspension, and I think he should sit out for next week because I don't think a points penalty and a fine is just enough to really kind of make a statement saying that, hey, you cannot do that. Like, that's a really, really bad look for Sam Mayer. And since we're on the topic of Sam Mayer was also confronted a little bit by Justin Allgaier. He was already locked in, but with about 50 laps to go, Sam Mayer had kind of shipped Brad Perez, who had stayed out of the way. And that basically kind of screwed Justin Allgaier over since he was on the top, and Allgaier lost multiple spots because of it. Allgaier was not happy after the race on pit road, so Sam Mayer, he did what he could to try to advance and outpoint Carson Kvapil and Jesse Love, and, even though he didn't advance, he definitely got some drivers upset, so not a good look for Sam Mayer. Sam Mayer said a couple of years ago that he's been wanting to do in the Cup, and he's upset that he has been racing for Cup. Sam Mayer, what you did, that's exactly why you haven't been racing in Cup. So, yeah, big bummer for Sam Mayer. I feel like Sam Mayer has had a great year, and he was a driver that I thought was going to advance to the championship for. Just didn't do enough. Continuing with the notable finishers, great run for Dean Thompson, finishes in the top 10. Connor Zelich started at the back due to a crash in practice, drove up methodically through the field to finish 9th. That's not too bad. Justin Bonsignor subbing in for William Sawalich in this race. He was pretty fast, finished 10th, not too bad. William Sawalich was out due to concussion-like symptoms a couple weeks ago at Talladega. Hopefully, William Sawalich is back in the car next week at Phoenix. Great top 15 runs for Ryan Sieg, Corey Day, Myatt Snider. Shout out to Myatt Snider. Snider got spun out early in the race and ended up finishing 14th. Not too bad of a recovery there. Ryan Sieg was top 10 all race long. I think he just lost some spots late in the race. Carson Kvapil, a playoff driver, finished 18th. Did what he could to advance. Didn't get any stage points in stage 1, but then made some strategy to win stage 2, and there was that one point late in the race where he got spun out by Ryan Sieg, who kind of locked up the tires, did his best to not hit Carson Kvapil, ultimately ended up spinning Carson Kvapil out, but at that moment, Carson Kvapil, he was below the cut line, and then late in the race, he slowly and steadily drove his way toward the front, got up to 20th, and then at that point, he was well above the cut line, 4 points above the cut line, and then passed a couple of other cars on the final overtime restart and advanced by 4 points. Great rally for Carson Kvapil for him to advance to the championship 4. Jesse Love finishes 23rd, another playoff driver. Jesse Love, man, he had a rough day. He had a really, really rough day. Got pit road penalties at the end of stage 1 and stage 2. One of them wasn't his fault. The other one was. So, didn't really get any stage points at all. Then he, in the second half of this race, he struggled. He really, really struggled. He was 30th at one point. He was running 30th, genuinely running 30th, excuse me. He came into this race 40 points above the cut line, and when he was running 30th, I was like, what's going on here? What is happening right now? At that point, he was barely above the cut line. I don't know what happened. I don't know if he had engine issues or what, but something was off, and he barely advanced by the skin of his teeth. And, thankfully, due to a good amount of cautions falling out late in this race, he advanced. So that's a little bit worrisome for especially for next week, considering that he's going to be contending for a championship. That is something to watch. I hope that this is a fluke, but yeah, I was just looking at Jesse Love, and I was like, what is going on? Wow. Those are your notable finishers. I really enjoyed this race. Kind of like the Truck Series race, the Xfinity race stayed clean for the most part. A decent amount of wrecks, but that's bound to happen at Martinsville. The Xfinity Series stayed clean, unlike the spring race earlier in the year. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Xfinity Series drivers. Thank you so much for keeping it clean and for learning from the mistakes that were made in the spring earlier this year. This race was great. Lots of whoa moments. Joe Gibbs Racing dominating. Plenty of comers and goers. I really, really enjoyed this race. Before we talk about the Cup Series race at Martinsville, I want to go ahead and take a look at the Championship 4. 3 of those Championship 4 drivers are from Junior Motorsports. Those drivers are Connor Zilich, Justin Allgaier, and Carson Kvapil. And then there's one driver from Richard Childress Racing, being Jesse Love. All 4 of these drivers are Chevy drivers, and it's time to make my championship pick. Who do I think will win the Xfinity Series Championship for 2025? First off, Jesse Love, Carson Kvapil, they've really stepped it up this year when they need to, but I don't feel like they're going to win it. I think they'll be in the mix. I just think the title will be down to Connor Zilich or Justin Allgaier. Allgaier has had so much experience. He has so much experience in the Xfinity Series, and he's the defending champion, trying to go back-to-back. But Zilich, he's been the one team to beat all year. Like, that 88 car's won so many times. He's won like 11 races. This might be a hot take, but I am leaning towards the driver with the most experience. So that means I believe Justin Allgaier goes back-to-back and wins the 2025 Xfinity Series Championship. I think he and Connor Zilich have been the best drivers to beat all year, and I think with Zilich only racing at Phoenix like once in his career, I think Justin Allgaier has the speed and the experience to win. I think it'll be really, really close between Allgaier and Zilich. So I have Justin Allgaier winning the 2025 Xfinity Series Championship. Cannot wait to see what happens at Phoenix next week. Now we'll go ahead and move on to the NASCAR Cup Series playoff race at Martinsville. I want to go ahead and just start with the winner, William Byron. Got the pole, led the most laps, 304, completely swept the race, needed to win to advance to the Championship 4, and got it done. Kind of had to rough Ryan Blaney up a little bit late in the race. I saw some fans kind of critiquing William Byron for just almost cleaning Ryan Blaney out and almost spinning Ryan Blaney out. I mean, in the heat of the moment, I was rooting for Ryan Blaney to win, but going back, I think that's fair. I mean, Ryan Blaney was kind of getting by some lap traffic. William Byron had the run, and William Byron took it. I mean, I don't really blame him for that. So congratulations to William Byron. Let's go over these notable finishers. Ryan Blaney finished second. He started 31st. At one point, I was very, very worried. Then in stage 1, drove up to around 8th. Yeah, drove up around 8th at the end of stage 1, and then looked like Ryan Blaney from the past 2 years. Led 177 laps. At one point, I thought Ryan Blaney was going to win, but just wasn't enough. This means that Team Penske has no shot of winning 4 straight championships, and that stinks. You know, as a Team Penske fan, I wanted to at least have the shot of winning 4 straight titles, but unfortunately it didn't happen. Hey, winning 3 straight championships, that's not easy, especially in this format where it's harder to win championships. I mean, that's still really, really impressive, but Blaney finishes second. Joey Logano finishes 8th. Logano seemed to have a top 5 car, but just never really had the pace that William Byron had for most of the race. So, unfortunate, Joey Logano kind of tried to pull off, you know, some pit road strategy near the end of the race as a last-ditch effort, but tires definitely didn't really seem to matter as much as some other short track races. Like, for this past weekend, it was cold outside, so tires didn't really mean too much. They mean something. They definitely meant something, because Joey Logano stayed out in stage 2 and then kind of fell like an absolute rock when a good amount of the field took 4 tires. So tires definitely mattered. Joey Logano did what he could, but just ultimately did not advance to the championship. Christopher Bell finishes 7th. When Byron was leading, when Byron and Blaney were at the top 2, the last spot came down between him and Kyle Larson. At one point, Bell and Larson were tied, but Larson, you know, kind of getting more stage points than Christopher Bell and outrunning Christopher Bell for much of the race, just couldn't do enough. Like Logano, Bell also kind of made some pit strategy with about 100 laps to go as a kind of like a last-ditch miracle move, but ultimately it didn't end up working out. Kyle Larson finishes 5th. Ross Chastain finishes top 5, not in the playoffs. He was very, very good. Shout out to Ryan Preece and Todd Gilliland finishing in the top 10. They were pretty much top 10 all race long. Josh Berry finishes 10th. At one point got spun out by, I think, Carson Hocevar, I believed. I don't know how he finished 10th. Great recovery for him. Let's see, continuing with the notable finishers, Kyle Busch finishes 13th. SVG finishes 14th. Those are really, really good runs for him. Austin Cindric finishes 15th, was a top 10 car for most of the race. Cole Custer was also in the top 10 for much of the race. Bubba Wallace, he kind of went like Dynaco was all mine for a couple of portions in this race, kind of turning a couple of his competitors around. Let's see, continuing with the notable finishers. Yeah, Daniel Suarez, he got taken out or spun out a couple of times in this race. Spire Motorsports seemed to kind of be all over the place and have their own crash out. Daniel Suarez, he's going to be a future driver driving the number 7 for Spire Motorsports, replacing Justin Haley. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But yeah, Hocevar got spun out like 3 times in this race. I think one of those was to Daniel Suarez. So big beef for Spire Motorsports. Continuing with the notable finishers, Denny Hamlin, a playoff contender, and then Chase Briscoe, another playoff driver, finishes dead last due to an engine issue. 2 Toyota drivers not finishing the race due to an engine issue. Very, very weird, because on lap like 300, Chase Briscoe DNF'd, and then like 30 laps later, Denny Hamlin also blows an engine and is out of the race. Like, that is very, very concerning, especially if you're a Christopher Bell. When that happened, I was like, is Christopher Bell all good? Is Christopher Bell going to be okay to kind of try to contend, for this championship still? Luckily, Bell was okay. He did finish the race, but I think that raises a little bit of questions, especially for next week, because Hamlin, Briscoe, they're already locked into the championship 4. I think this was something that Toyota was kind of playing with as like a little experiment before they actually go out and compete for the championship next week. But yeah, I was very, very surprised. Definitely a tad bit skeptical going into next week. But those are the notable finishers. Just taking a look at the 4 drivers who advanced. Byron with that win. He advanced. Kyle Larson advanced on points. And then Hamlin, Briscoe, they already locked in a couple weeks ago, which means Joey Logano, Chase Elliott, Ryan Blaney, and Christopher Bell are eliminated. That they will not contend championship really, really fast. He looked like a great car. I feel like Chase Elliott really could have contended for this win. I think on the short run, he was really, really good, but just never really had anything for William Byron on the long run. Joey Logano, I'll talk about him. Logano seemed to really kind of come alive on the long run, on the long green flag runs. But then when they took like 2 tires, or when they stayed out when others pitted due to a caution, Joey Logano kind of fell like a rock, and it was hard to pass out there, and kind of maintaining and staying up front is kind of what you really needed to do. And I think at that point, I kind of knew that it was over for Joey Logano. Ryan Blaney, I mean, he almost did it, man. He almost pulled it off. He almost went 3 in a row, and he had a new challenger. William Byron just kind of dominated straight up. So really a big bummer for Ryan Blaney. I think Ryan Blaney, with 8 DNFs this year, he had 7 going into the regular season finale at Daytona. I remember I was there, and he actually finished 2nd in the regular season standings, and that just kind of shows that he has had so much speed pretty much everywhere. And I think that kind of justified as a lot of drivers or a lot of fans kind of considering him to be in the championship 4. But unfortunately, with that bad race that he had at Las Vegas, really not really his fault. Christopher Bell, he is also eliminated. Yeah, I mean, Bell did what he could. Bell did what he could. try to outpoint Kyle Larson in case there was someone below the cut line, winning. It didn't happen. So, yeah, those 4 drivers are eliminated. Briscoe, Hamlin, Byron, and Larson are the championship 4. They will be the 4 drivers competing for a championship next week. It's time to make my prediction. Who wins the 2025 Cup Series championship? Briscoe has had a great year. He really has had a great year, but I feel like he's been quiet, and there's been a decent amount of runs this season where he's been kind of a little bit inconsistent. William Byron has kind of been a little bit quiet. He's kind of struggled a little bit in the summer, but he's really kind of turned it around, especially when the playoffs started. I feel like Byron could definitely be a contender. And then Kyle Larson. I remember back in 2023, it was him versus Ryan Blaney for the championship that year. And then Denny Hamlin. He is still looking for his first ever Cup Series championship. He has 6 wins on the season, the most of anyone in the series this season. I feel like it's going to come down between Denny Hamlin and Kyle Larson for this championship. So, my pick to win the 2025 Cup Series championship is going to be, oh my goodness, I cannot believe I'm saying this, but I think Denny Hamlin will win the 2025 Cup Series championship. Denny Hamlin, he's got the experience. I feel he's got the speed. He's got a new crew chief with Chris Gabehart, starting this year. They've looked better than they've ever been before. I feel like Denny Hamlin really has the experience to win. He's been to the championship 4 before. I feel like Denny Hamlin wins the 2025 Cup Series championship, but we will find out who wins the 2025 Cup Series championship next week at Phoenix. Moving on to the F1 Mexican Grand Prix. Lando Norris gets the win, gains more points on Oscar Piastri, won the race in dominating fashion. Congratulations to him. Let's take a look at these notable finishers. Verstappen finishes 3rd. He was bold on the initial start, made it 4 wide on the outside in turn 1, then went off track, didn't get penalized for it, and then a couple laps later in turn 2, trying to pass Lewis Hamilton, kind of uses Hamilton up a little bit, makes contact with him, and then goes off track and then never really gives up the spot. Normally, when you make contact that's clearly avoidable and even go off track too, there's some kind of a penalty. Now, it gets interesting because Hamilton on the next corner, trying to pass Max Verstappen, he then locks up the tires and goes off track, and then Hamilton was given a time penalty, but not Max Verstappen. I don't really understand. That because I feel like what Verstappen did was worse. I mean, he made contact with Lewis Hamilton when it was clearly avoidable and even went off track to even gain the spot. Hamilton locked up the tires, didn't make contact with Verstappen, went off track, as he should, and he got a penalty for it, and Verstappen didn't. I think that's very, very interesting to see that race control just not really penalize Max Verstappen. I mean, I get what Max Verstappen is trying to do. He's trying to stay in the Drivers' Championship, and I feel like it's very, very early in the race. I feel like that could have been avoidable, but, oh man, I can't even lie. Him taking it 4 wide on the outside, that was awesome. That was pretty cool. But continuing with the notable finishers, great run for Oliver Bearman, man. Finishes 4th, ran top 5 all race long. He literally ran top 5 all race long. Great run for Oliver Bearman. Oscar Piastri started 9th to start this race, was in the points lead to start this race, started 9th when his teammate got the pole. I was a little bit worried for him, but thankfully he was only able to drive up to finish 5th, so his points gap, it's now gone. It is now gone. He has now been overtaken for the points lead, which we'll take a look at in a little bit. But yeah, that's a big qualifying. Need to clean that up if you want to get back to the top of the drivers' standings. But continuing with the notable finishers, Ocon, Gabriel Bortoleto get points. Esteban Ocon, one of the Haas drivers, so both Haas cars get points, really, really good. Liam Lawson, DNFs. On the third lap, he wasn't happy, and it wasn't with any drivers, it was with the officials. Some track marshals on the third lap were picking up some debris in turn 2, kind of running across the racetrack to pick up the debris, and then they were walking back, and then Liam Lawson almost collided with them. Yeah, definitely understand his frustration. Liam Lawson on the radio was like, I could have killed them. They could have been killed. Like, what are we doing here? And I definitely understand that. It's a really, really big red flag, really like huge, like red alert for Formula One. There is clearly a lack of communication there, and I feel like you have to clean that up. I feel like for Formula One, that just can't happen. I'm sure Formula One is definitely looking at it. Will definitely make adjustments to make sure that doesn't happen again. That should never happen. That should absolutely never happen. But yeah, those are your notable finishers all. Let's go ahead and take a look at the points with 4 races left. Norris now leads the points and is ahead of Oscar Piastri by 1 single point. Piastri is second just behind him, but again, don't count out Max Verstappen. Even though Lando Norris won, Verstappen gained points on Oscar Piastri, who led the points heading into this race. Verstappen is 36 points behind the points leader of Lando Norris. I'm telling you, Verstappen is not out yet. He needs some help. He still needs some help. I feel like with the rate that he's, gaining points, I don't think it'll be enough. I think he needs some more help. 4 races left. It's still possible. It is still very, very much possible for Max Verstappen to kind of pull off the ultimate comeback and win this Drivers' Championship. But taking a look at the Constructors' Championship, Ferrari with Leclerc finishing in second is now up to second in the Constructors' standings, 1 point above Mercedes, who is just behind them in third. And then Red Bull, they still have a shot, only 10 points behind Ferrari, who is in second. So, yeah, what a battle that we have here for the Constructors' Championship for second place, and then a battle for the Drivers' Championship. 4 races left. It's going to be exciting to see what happens in the final 4 races. But those are all of your race reviews. Now we're going to go ahead and move on to our motorsports segment, beginning with our big NASCAR news that we've got. Daytona International Speedway announced that the 2027 Daytona 500 will not be held on President's Day weekend, but 1 week later on February 21st, shifting the race back a little bit. It goes against with kind of clashing with that year's Super Bowl. I'm sure this will also conflict with making the schedule for the Trucks Xfinity and the ARCA Series schedule too, kind of moving everything back a week, but very, very happy that the Daytona 500 won't be going head-to-head with the Super Bowl in 2027, so just thought I'd kind of mention that. It's really, really nice to see that, Daytona is noticing that their normal schedule for the Daytona 500, it's going to clash with, like, President's Day weekend and the Super Bowl, so really, really happy about that. Next up, according to Adam Stern, NASCAR has developed a 5-episode docuseries called Rising that will air for free on YouTube, and it's basically going to follow around 3 drivers. Carson Hocevar, who's full-time in Cup, Jesse Love, who's full-time in Xfinity, and Raja Karuth, who is full-time in the trucks. The docuseries will make its debut on November 17th. I love this idea. Getting to know some drivers, some upcoming talents like Jesse Love and Raja Karuth with big personality, especially drivers with big personality like Carson Hocevar. I feel like even though I kind of talk a lot about Carson Hocevar and how sometimes I don't like his driving style, I can't help but admit I love his personality, and I want him to kind of continue that driving style, even though I may not necessarily like him as a fan. So I really love this idea, what NASCAR is doing a docu-series called Rising. I guess that means that there's no Netflix, NASCAR Full Speed Season 3, I guess. I don't know. But Either way, I'm really, really happy that they are making this docuseries. This is good. This is much needed for the fans. I feel like I cannot wait. I cannot wait to watch the first episode of this. This is, oh my gosh, it's going to be so great. Now, moving on to some Cup Series news. According to Kelly Crandall on Racer.com, Ross Chastain will be paired with a new crew chief, Brandon McSwain, next season in the Cup Series. McSwain is set to join the number 1 from Hendrick Motorsports. McSwain will replace Phil Surgeon, who's worked with Ross Chastain since 2021. So a big move from Trackhouse Racing. Getting an engineer from Hendrick Motorsports and making him crew chief for next year. Sounds like a pretty big upgrade in my opinion. According to Kelly Crandall, Brandon McSwain has been an engineer for Hendrick Motorsports since 2019, and he was even an interim crew chief for the team for a race, I think, at Daytona. So, big signing. I feel like Chastain is going to have a solid 2026, with this report. Probably won't be contending in the Championship 4 because it's so hard to beat Penske, Gibbs, and Hendrick, but he could definitely be a round of 8 driver and a sleeper pick for the Championship 4. So, big signing for Trackhouse Racing. Not afraid to grab anyone, to grab people from top organizations. This is big for Trackhouse Racing. Wishing Brandon McSwain the best of luck at Trackhouse next year. Next up, Spire Motorsports announces that Daniel Suarez will drive the number 7 Cup Series next year, replacing Justin Haley. Freeway Insurance will be the anchor partner and will be the primary sponsor for the 2026 Daytona 500. Not too surprising, considering there were a lot of reports suggesting that Daniel Suarez is the leading candidate to replace Haley. I think the big question that everyone has on their mind is how will Daniel Suarez perform? I feel like, I don't know. I don't know how Daniel Suarez and that 7 team will perform. The 7 team has kind of been all over the place, I feel like. And of all of the other cars that Spire Motorsports fields, the 7 car has been the bottom of the barrel, it feels like. And just looking at that, I feel like a solid goal is to get top 25 in points next year. Maybe get close to the top 20 because Spire Motorsports has shown speed this year with Carson Hocevar and even Michael McDowell on occasion. And I don't believe they're playoff contending teams. Like, I don't believe Spire Motorsports is a playoff contending team except for Hocevar in the 77. But I think getting close to them and getting close to the playoffs and maybe getting inside the top 25 in points for Daniel Suarez and the 7 team is a good goal to achieve. It's definitely better than where they currently are now. So, wishing the best of luck to Daniel Suarez in 2026. Continuing on, Front Row Motorsports has announced a multi-year contract extension for Zane Smith to drive the 38 car. The team also announced that Todd Gilliland will return to the number 34 car for next year full-time, and they also announced that Noah Gragson will return to the number 4 car full-time for next year. Great decision by the team signing Zane Smith. Zane Smith has kind of been carrying the banner this year, and glad they're keeping Todd Gilliland and Noah Gragson. Those 2 drivers have had a rough season this year, Noah Gragson especially. Kind of feels like a down year. It feels like a down year for Front Row Motorsports this year. Signing with Team Penske, getting that technical alliance. I thought this year was going to be really, really big for them. But other than the super speedways, Front Row Motorsports has been pretty disappointing. Glad they're going to be keeping their lineup because all 3 of their drivers that they have right now are really, really good. I think they're really, really talented. Just some big Cup Series silly season for 2026. Wishing Gragson, Gilliland, and Zane Smith the best of luck for next year. Moving on to some Xfinity Series news. Whelen Engineering, a sponsor for RCR, will return to the number 2 for Jesse Love in 2026, and Jesse Love will return to the number 2 for next year. Not too surprising. Happy for RCR and Jesse Love. Just kind of looking at Jesse Love's stats, it's been a decent improvement. Again, he did make the Championship 4 for the first time in his career. He's improved, but it's not big enough to scream Cup Series ready. I think he needs some more experience under his belt. He's ran some Cup Series this year, and I think he needs a little bit more of that next year. I think he needs more time in the Xfinity Series. I want to see him have that breakout year, and I think he could have that in 2026, but we'll have to wait and see. Wishing Jesse Love and RCR the best of luck. DGM Racing announces that they will part ways with Ryan Ellis at the end of the season. A team implied or indicated that it was Ryan Ellis's decision to part ways, not theirs. And that's important to note. It's pretty funny because the team posted this right before the Xfinity race started. So I thought it was weird. I thought it was like, okay, that's a pretty big shock. I think Ryan Ellis did okay this year for DGM Racing. I don't know where he'll go now. I mean, he does carry a good amount of sponsorship with him, so will be interesting to see where he goes. Maybe he goes to Colleague Racing and the trucks, or maybe even goes to their Xfinity Series program. But as far as DGM plan goes, I think they're a little bit shocked as the fan base is, honestly, because I feel like DGM Racing's only driver was Ryan Ellis, and I think they were hoping to sign him on for next year, so not sure where they find one. We'll have to wait and see, but wishing Ryan Ellis the best of luck and hoping he could get another full-time ride for next year. Continuing on, Sam Hunt Racing has announced that they will expand to 2 full-time cars next year. Dean Thompson will return to the number 26, and Harrison Burton from AM Racing will drive the number 24 full-time next year. Happy for Dean Thompson. He's had a lot of really good solid runs late in the year. The big story is Harrison Burton from AM Racing this year to Sam Hunt Racing next year. I'm not too sure what to think of this. Personally, I don't feel like this is that much of an upgrade. I still expect Harrison Burton to do well. Like, Harrison Burton has proved that get him in, an underrated car and team like Sam Hunt Racing, and he'll do you wonders for you. He'll make you a playoff team. So I feel like Harrison Burton is going to contend for the playoffs next year. Will he make the playoffs like he did this year? I don't know. I don't really see it right now. I feel like Dean Thompson and Sam Hunt Racing have been okay this year, and just seeing that organization expand to double their operation, I think that's a big question mark. But either way, happy for Harrison Burton getting another ride, and it's cool to see Sam Hunt Racing expanding their operation. Wishing those two parties the best of luck for next year. Next up's a little bit of Truck Series news. Nice Motorsports has announced that Landon Lewis will run part-time for the team next year. Landon Lewis just won the Cars Tour Championship and is currently 19 years old, so big. I'm happy for him. I'm happy for Landon Lewis. Seems like a great opportunity for him. It's also important to mention that the team said that he will be their anchor driver, so even though it's part-time, I'd like to think that maybe Landon Lewis maybe runs like half of the Truck Series season for next year, or maybe a little bit more than half of that. So either way, big opportunity for Landon Lewis. Happy for him. Hopefully he does well. Good luck to Landon Lewis and Nice Motorsports. No ARCA Series news for this week, but going to move to some Formula One Series news. Colton Herta, a test driver for the new F1 Cadillac team. He will be making his F2 season debut next year. He will drive for the high-tech GP team that competes in Formula 2, Formula 3, Formula 4, etc., even the F1 Academy as well. I was wondering if Colton Herta was just going to be their test driver for next year, or if he was going to be racing full-time next year in the Formula 3 season or in Formula 2. Now he's running the full F2 schedule. Wishing him the best of luck. Hopefully he does well. I'm rooting for him. I think this is an IndyCar driver that is going to take that knowledge and apply it to F2. I feel like Colton Herta will do well. Maybe I'm setting my expectations for him a little bit too high, but I feel like this is the first step for him for maybe getting a seat for Cadillac in maybe 2027 or in 2028. All depends on how he performs next year. Good luck to Colton Herta. Going to wrap things up with some IndyCar and Indy NXT news. HA Foyt Racing that they will expand AJ Foyt Racing has announced that they will expand their operation and run in the Indy NXT series for next year. The team says that they will field 2 full-time cars, and they are also forming a strategical and technical alliance with HMD Motorsports, which is an Indy NXT regular team. Their driver lineup is TBD, to be determined, but really, really cool to see more entries for 2026 in the Indy NXT series. Happy that HA Foyt is racing. As to what their drivers will be, I don't really have any idea what their lineup will be for next year. I mean, they haven't even announced who will replace David Malukas for next year, so I feel like this new Indy NXT program that they're going to have for next year is going to be kind of like a developmental pipeline for their IndyCar program. That's at least my thoughts as to all of this. Good luck to HA Foyt Racing. Last piece of news before we call it a day. Droplight, the sponsor for Louis Foster, they have signed a multi-year extension with Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing. Huge news for Louis Foster. I think this signing kind of clearly shows that they believe in Louis Foster. Pretty cool to see Droplight kind of signing a multi-year extension, continuing to sponsor Louis Foster. Really, really happy for Louis Foster. That's a really, really big signing for him. Wishing him and RLL Racing the best of luck for next season. And that is going to wrap things up. We will be back next week. We've got the last ARCA West race of the season at Phoenix, the Truck Series Championship at Phoenix, the Xfinity Series Championship at Phoenix, and the Cup Series Championship at Phoenix. Should be very, very exciting. I literally cannot wait. Literally, the last race of the NASCAR season is almost over. There's one race left. I literally cannot wait. I'll see you guys later. Have a great day, everybody. Take care, y'all.